I'm going to throw out, Jeff will have the next question, but I want to throw out a little lightning round from listeners that have called in some questions here. One of them is, and I know this is a toughie to get into just a quick little answer, but please try to make these answers brief. Dave in Rome wants to know where everybody stands on gun control.
Can we go Martin first?
Let's start with Martin.
Yep. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. It's in our Constitution. It's something that we have to preserve and protect. Right now, we also have situations where our existing gun laws are not properly resourced, even for things like background checks, and where we have prosecutions that sometimes are too lax when criminals use guns in the commission of a crime. We have to be vigorous in the prosecution and not put them back on the street, as too oftentimes happen in the plea bargain agreements. It is the criminals that we have to really seek to control the access to guns.
Kim Myers on gun control.
Thank you very much. Absolutely, we must preserve the Second Amendment. I am part of a family business that's probably one of the largest seller of guns and ammunition in the nation. I grew up in that business. I know what responsible gun ownership is. Responsible gun ownership should be protected, and it's a way of life here in upstate New York. I'm very, very familiar with that. But we do need common sense. You know, for example, we've talked about the no-fly, no-buy. That's certainly with provisions for due process. It seems like common sense. If somebody is criminally and violently mentally ill, I don't think they should be able to buy a gun. Should the gun show loopholes be tightened up? Absolutely. As well as a background check to make sure that whoever is purchasing a gun is not likely to do harm with that is certainly common sense. So definitely preserving the Second Amendment, but we also have to use common sense and reasonable protection for our citizens.
All right, and finally, Ms. Tenney.
I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, as everyone knows. I voted against the SAFE Act. I worked and lobbied with the Remington Arms employees to try to stop the SAFE Act from being passed under a message of necessity by Andrew Cuomo. I'm the first to propose repeal legislation for the SAFE Act. I'm endorsed by NRA with an A rating. I have the top rating from every major gun education group in the state. I'm also endorsed by the Remington Arms Union. They know what a strong supporter I am and how devastating the SAFE Act was and could be with restricting our gun rights to this very important employer that's celebrating its 200th year this year. Let's keep it for 200 more.
Okay, this one should be quicker. Frank in Westmoreland, also Jim Zecca. The question on their minds, who are you voting for when it comes to this presidential race? Starting with Kim Myers, please.
Thank you. I agree with Congressman Richard Hanna that the presidential candidate that should be voted into office that would both protect us and move our country forward with the best resume is Hillary Clinton. And she has the best temperament, and she has the skill set to keep our country safe.
Claudia Tenney.
I'm voting for Donald Trump. I'm voting for him because we need to put a Republican in this position. I don't love everything he says. I like what says he's going to do. I think Hillary Clinton is going to be dangerous to this country if she's elected. We are going to see one of the most corrupt administrations that could ever exist in this nation, and that's with Hillary Clinton. Pay to play, corporate welfare, using the government for her own advantage. That's exactly what I've been fighting in Albany, and I'll fight it in Washington.
Martin Babinec.
Like most voters in this district, I'm disappointed with the selection that we've got available. I'm concerned about Hillary Clinton's questionable honesty. I am troubled by Donald Trump's temperament. We deserve better, we really do. And I often wonder, how did we get here? And really, we know that things like low voter turnout in the primaries and also the influence of special interest funding have been major factors for us to get here. The fact is, there are no special interest funding for people that are voting in the middle, like most voters. I'm an independent candidate, and when I think of the choices at the top of the ticket, I've not yet made up my mind where I'm going to cast my vote. We need to reform the system and have better candidates.
Okay, so who feels they have the best? We probably have room for one more question. Who wants to go? You think you got it?
If you don't mind, I'll just jump in just because this is newsworthy. Of course, we're fighting terrorism in Iraq and Syria. Would you, if elected to Congress, support sending more American troops to Iraq or Syria under the auspices of fighting terrorism and removing ISIS.
And we're starting with Martin on this one.
Our national security is certainly the #1 priority for our federal government. And when it comes to making the commitment for sending troops, we would have to look to our commander-in-chief and the guidance from our military generals and people that are close to the ground. So I think it would depend on the circumstances. As it sits today, there is enough of a threat that it certainly warrants a close look at the possibility of sending troops. But I'll stop short of saying that based on what I know today, we should pull the trigger and send the troops in. Let's look at the circumstances as they're unfolding and get some more guidance from our military that might even be a little bit more visible than I think we can see today, because this administration is holding a lot of cards close to the vest.
Kim Myers.
Thank you. ISIS is certainly an attack on our culture. It's an attack on the American way of life, and it's certainly on the foremost mind of most of our citizens, and it is very fearful, certainly. We must do whatever we need to do to defeat ISIS, but it is an incredibly complex situation, and it would be, as I agree with Martin, for me to sit here and say I have the answer to defeat ISIS, that would not be, that would be very disingenuous. We do have a very strong military. We have the commanders of our military, the top level military people who know what's going on. Their intelligence must be respected, and their opinions and their expertise certainly must be taken into consideration before we would escalate or take any further action.
And Assembly.
Yeah, this is a very serious issue. As I indicated earlier, my son is an active duty Marine. He's on the list to go to Afghanistan in the early part of next year. These are very serious issues. We've had many Blue Star families in our communities who've lost their children to wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We have to look at a strategy, though. We didn't do a status of forces agreement when we removed ourselves from Iraq. The failed administration has caused us to now have this entire world in the Middle East unraveling before our eyes. We need a serious policy about getting in and protecting not only the United States and our interests, protecting Israel. It's something that I haven't seen out of this administration. I see the opposite. I see a weakness in America. We need to rebuild our military. We need to give us the strength and the technology so we can be a power in the world. We don't need to be the world's policeman, but we need to make sure we protect our interests, and that means defeating ISIS and doing everything we can without going into Syria, but making sure that we're supporting our allies, whether it's the Kurds or whomever we need to support, to make sure that this enemy and this scourge is defeated. This is the enemy of our time.
Okay, one final quick question. You have to be very quick with these answers, if you could, as we're running out of time. Sean Martinelli from WTR.
Yes, very quickly, and this was asked in the second presidential debate, but one thing each of you respects about your opponents.
Starting with Kim Myers.
Thank you very much. I respect both of my opponents' willingness to put themselves out there for public office. It's not easy, and it shouldn't be easy, but it is something that takes a lot of strength and a lot of conviction, and I respect both of them for being willing to jump into this arena.
Assemblywoman Tenney.
Yeah, I respect Ms. Myers for being a mom. She adopted a couple of children. I think that's a great thing. I respect Mr. Babinec for putting himself out in this race and being relentless in his pursuit. And I respect anyone who runs for this office. It is a very, very difficult thing to do. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. And I respect all of my opponents who I've had throughout the years for doing that. I think it's very difficult to put yourself out there.
And Martin Babinec.
I respect Ms. Myers for the volunteer efforts that she's made in her community to impact the lives of others. And I respect Ms. Tenney for her persistence and her public service in past roles.
Okay, let's do our closing statement here, and we'll start with Claudia Tenney. You have 60 seconds. Ms. Tenney.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. The voters have a clear choice in this race. You have someone who has been fighting as an independent, an outsider. I faced a major smear campaign. Unprecedented amounts of money are being spent on this race. As I sit here today, my opponent, Ms. Myers, is going to be receiving something like $31 million, 12 from Andrew Cuomo's troubled Excelsior program, another $20 million, which is being hidden from the voters through a program, an IDA in Broome County, of which she sat as the minority leader of the legislature, appointed these people. They donated to her campaign, and now they're, after leaving for corporate welfare in Pennsylvania, seeking a tax haven in Delaware County, in the state of Delaware. She is now going to get corporate welfare to lure jobs back, and it's even iffy if these jobs are going to come back if she's not elected to Congress. I urge people to look this up. The media needs to do its job to talk about it. Mr. Babinec calls himself a job creator. I think he's a job destructor. He has lobbied for tax credits through special interests. He has had $1 million fine for labor laws. The people have a clear choice. I am the choice here. These, both of them are vote. Mr. Babinec is here solely as a vote splitter. These are between a Republican and a Democrat.
Mr. Ben.
You know, on many levels, this 2016 election cycle has been the ugliest we've ever seen. And not only is there a sharp divide between the parties, but the path to change this is not an easy one, because our current system is really oriented towards the parties keeping themselves in power. And I've borne the brunt of that as an independent candidate. We really do deserve better. And while I'm committed to policy changes, I'm also a realist in seeing that our current representatives are working the system more to their advantage and not ours. So electing me to Congress as an independent representative would be the first for 26 years and allows me to concentrate on serving the interests of the voters. I'm proud of the entrepreneurs that I've helped start companies and created jobs. Our Upstate Venture Connect, our nonprofit, has helped hundreds of them and laid the foundation for thousands of jobs. And as I'm elected to Congress, I'll be taking that fight to the next level, because turning our economic situation in this district around is what I'm totally committed to, and being beholden only to the voters, not to parties, and not to the special interest PACs.
And finally, Kim Myers.
Thank you very much. I'd rather concentrate on facts instead of innuendos and throwing things around. So I just encourage anyone who is curious about what they've heard. I've instituted a fact check page on my website, myersforcongress.com, and just go to that. But why I want to go to Congress and why I should be the candidate to be elected to Congress is very simple. I was born here, raised here, and plan to stay here. I've worked tirelessly for my community, and I am one of the most luckiest people I know in this world. And I can't be more proud of what myself and my family has accomplished. If there's one thing my dad always taught us as growing up, is he always said, you never forget where you came from. I've never forgot where I came from. I'm here. I want to protect Social Security. I want to protect Medicare. I want to do the best job that I can for the people of the 22nd. And as I said, I don't care if it's a Democratic idea or Republican idea. The people expect us to serve them, to go to Congress and get things done. I know that I'm the right person for that. I know that I will do that, and I will not disappoint you. And I ask for your vote.
All right, Claudia Tenney, Kim Myers, Martin Babinec, thank you all very much for spending the last 90 minutes and hammering away. We really appreciate it. Alex Gerald, Observer Dispatch, Sean Martinelli as well. Guys, thanks so much. Great questions. And everybody that took the time to make a phone call in here this morning.
What am I, chap liver?
I'm saving you for last.
Everyone that took the time to call in and pipe in some questions. And of course, Mr. Manaski with some great questions as well. Again, Election Day is a week from Tuesday. Good luck, everybody. Gotta go. WIBX.
Thank you very much.
Utica Rome.